And wide open is Fuller for the touchdown.
All 32 NFL teams have experienced the special feeling of drafting a franchise-changing quarterback at least once. On the flip side, they've also gone through the pain of wasting a valuable draft pick on a QB who never was able to live up to expectations. Today, we take a dive into the best and worst draft pick in every NFL team's history. Arizona Cardinals best, Neil Lomax. The two-time Pro Bowler is second all-time on the Cardinals passing yards and passing touchdowns list, being only behind Jim Hart. Arizona Cardinals worst, Josh Rosen. The 2018 first-round pick lost 10 of 13 starts in his rookie year, tossing 11 touchdowns against 14 interceptions. Arizona drafted Kyler Murray at the first overall pick 1 year later and subsequently traded Rosen to the Miami Dolphins. Atlanta Falcons best, Matt Ryan. The four-time Pro Bowler and 2016 League MVP led Atlanta to 6 playoff appearances, including 2 NFC championships and a trip to Super Bowl 51. Atlanta Falcons worst, Chris Miller. The 1987 first-round pick went 23-43 as a starter over 7 seasons with 87 touchdowns and 72 interceptions. Baltimore Ravens best, Lamar Jackson. The two-time league MVP has turned Baltimore into an annual Super Bowl contender with his slick dual-threat game, and he is well on his way to the Hall of Fame at this point. Baltimore Ravens worst, Kyler Bowler. The 2003 first-round pick went 20-22 as the Ravens starting QB and had just 25 touchdowns against 44 picks. Buffalo Bills best, Jim Kelly. The Pro Football Hall of Famer and 5-time Pro Bowler was instrumental in turning the Bills into an NFL powerhouse in the 90s, leading them to 4 straight Super Bowl appearances. Buffalo Bills worst, E.J. Manuel. The number 16 pick of 2013 made just 17 starts as a Bill and lost 11 of them. He had 19 touchdowns and 15 interceptions, with 11 of those TDs coming in his rookie year. Carolina Panthers best, Cam Newton. Considered a boomer-bust prospect, the number 1 pick of 2011 emerged as one of the greatest dual-threat QBs to ever do it. Newton led Carolina to 4 playoff berths, highlighted by a trip to Super Bowl 50 and his 2015 MVP winning season. Carolina Panthers worst, Jimmy Clausen. Clausen made just 14 career starts. He lost 9 of 10 as a rookie in Carolina. The silver lining, he did so bad that it at least led them to taking Cam Newton first overall. Chicago Bears best, Sid Luckman. The number 2 pick of 1939 was a 5-time first-team All-Pro who captained the Bears to 4 NFL championships in the 1940s decade. Chicago Bears worst, Mitch Trubisky. Oof, the Bears used the number 2 pick of 2017 over Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. Cincinnati Bengals best, Ken Anderson. Anderson holds every meaningful Bengals passing record. Not to mention, he put this team on the map in the 80s by leading them to their first Super Bowl appearance in the 1981 season. Cincinnati Bengals worst, Akili Smith. Smith made just 17 starts over his 4 years in Cincinnati, losing 14 of them. The number 3 pick of 1999 had just 5 touchdowns against 13 interceptions. Cleveland Browns best, Bernie Kosar. The Browns used their 1985 supplemental NFL draft on Kosar, who remains the last great quarterback this franchise employed. The one-time Pro Bowler led the Browns to 3 AFC Championship game appearances in the 80s. Cleveland Browns worst, Tim Couch. The first overall pick of 1999 started the Browns' long and tragic list of wasting high-end draft picks, as he lasted just 5 seasons in the NFL with 64 touchdowns against 67 interceptions. Dallas Cowboys best, Roger Staubach. The greatest QB in Cowboys history was, shockingly, a 10th-round pick in 1964. The proud Canton member guided Dallas to 2 Super Bowl championships in the 70s. Dallas Cowboys worst, Sonny Gibbs. Dallas used the number 18 pick in the 1962 draft on Gibbs, but he never wound up throwing a pass for the organization. Hey. Denver Broncos best, Brian Griese. John Elway's successor provided 4 quality seasons as the Broncos' main QB from 1999 to 2002, throwing for 11,763 yards and 71 touchdowns against 53 interceptions. Denver Broncos worst, Paxton Lynch. The Broncos moved up to snag Memphis QB Paxton Lynch at number 26 overall in 2016. The Broncos saw just 4 starts from Lynch over 2 years before deciding that enough was enough. He was waived ahead of the 2018 season. Detroit Lions best, Matthew Stafford. The top pick of 2009 broke every Lions major passing record. Stafford led the longtime struggling franchise to 3 playoff berths, not to mention his trade to the Los Angeles Rams for Jared Goff was the ultimate win-win for all parties. Detroit Lions worst, Joey Harrington. The 3rd overall pick of 2002 never sliced it as Detroit's starting QB, to say the least. He lost 37 of 55 starts and had 60 touchdowns against 62 interceptions. Green Bay Packers best, Aaron Rodgers. Tough call between Rodgers and Bart Starr, but it's hard to go against the 4-time league-leading MVP who has a case as the most all-around decorated QB ever. We still can't believe he went 24th overall in 2005 to a Packers team that already had Brett Favre. Green Bay Packers worst, Randy Duncan. This really sucked for Green Bay. They used the number 1 pick of 1959 on Iowa QB Randon Duncan, who ended up snubbing the Packers to sign with the CFL's BC Lions for more money. Houston Texans best, Deshaun Watson. CJ Stroud should overtake Watson on this list in a couple of years, but for now we gotta go with Watson. The 2017 first-round pick led Houston to a pair of AFC South Division titles and left the franchise second in all-time passing yards and TDs, despite playing just 54 games over 4 years. Houston Texans worst, David Carr. First overall pick of 2002 really has made a case as the biggest draft bust in NFL history. Do we really need to say more on this one? Indianapolis Colts best, Peyton Manning. The first overall pick of 1998 won 4 MVPs with the Colts and guided them to 11 playoff appearances. That included 2 AFC championships and a Super Bowl 41 title in the 2006 season. Indianapolis Colts worst, Jeff George. George had some success with the Falcons and Raiders, but don't remind Colts fans. The first overall pick of 1990 never lived up to expectations in Indy, throwing 41 touchdowns and 46 interceptions over his 2 years there. Jacksonville Jaguars best, Trevor Lawrence. This may seem premature to some, but the number 1 pick of 2021 is already the most talented QB in Jaguars history. Assuming he stays around long term, he will easily smash all the franchise passing records. Jacksonville Jaguars worst, Blaine Gabbert. The Jaguars traded up to snag Gabbert 10th overall in 2011. He lasted just 3 years in Jacksonville and has been a journeyman backup, while the rival Texans took J.J. Watt with the very next pick. Kansas City Chiefs best, Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, come on. There's no explanation even needed here. Best QB in the game today. Moving on. Kansas City Chiefs worst, Todd Blackledge. The 1983 draft featured John Elway, Jim Kelly, and Dan Marino. The Chiefs got none of them. Instead, they used the number 7 pick on Todd Blackledge, who is more known for his broadcasting career than for what he did on the field. Las Vegas Raiders best, Ken Stabler. The Snake made the Raiders a relevant and iconic franchise by leading them to a Super Bowl title in the 1976 season. Stabler won 1974 MVP honors and earned 4 Pro Bowl nods en route to a gold jacket. Las Vegas Raiders worst, Jamarcus Russell. In our eyes, the worst first overall pick in NFL history. Next. Los Angeles Chargers best, Dan Fouts. Fouts spent his entire career with the Bolts, which spanned from 1973 to 87. The 6-time Pro Bowler won 4 straight passing yard crowns from 1979 to 82, guiding the Chargers to 4 playoff berths and a pair of AFC Championship game appearances. Los Angeles Chargers worst, Ryan Leaf. The number 2 pick of 1998 is far and away the biggest draft bust in NFL history. Also next. Los Angeles Rams best, Roman Gabriel. The 2nd overall pick of 1962 played for the Rams for 11 years. He won 1969 NFL MVP honors and twice led the league in passing TDs. Gabriel is the Rams' all-time leader in passing touchdowns with 154 and 3rd in passing yards with 22,223. Los Angeles Rams worst, Sam Bradford. Bradford could have been a star if injuries didn't sadly cut his career short. But alas, the number 1 pick of 2010 had a frustrating 5-year run with the Rams that saw him appear in just 49 total games. Miami Dolphins best, Dan Marino. Arguably the best pure pocket passer ever. The 9-time Pro Bowler and 5-time passing yards leader would have a GOAT case if he weren't the best QB ever without a Super Bowl ring. Miami Dolphins worst, Rick Norton. Miami got 11 starts, 1 win, and 7 touchdowns out of the 2nd overall pick from the 1966 AFL draft. Yikes. Minnesota Vikings best, Fran Tarkenton. Like Marino, Tarkenton was a 9-time Pro Bowler whose regular season success was overshadowed by a lack of playoff success. Tarkenton led the star-studded Vikings to 3 Super Bowl appearances, but somehow never won a championship. Still the best QB in Vikings history, and that really counts for something. Minnesota Vikings worst, Christian Ponder. Is 14 wins and 38 touchdowns against 36 picks good for a guy taken 12th overall in 2011? No? Didn't think so. Moving on. New England Patriots best, Tom Brady. With the Patriots, Brady won 6 Super Bowl championships and won 3 MVP awards. He was the undisputed GOAT even before joining Tampa Bay in 2020. Yeah, I'd say that was pretty good for a guy who was taken 199th overall in 2000. New England Patriots worst, Jim Plunkett. The first overall pick of 1971 won 2 Super Bowls with the Raiders. As a Patriot, Plunkett was a mega draft bust who threw a whopping 87 interceptions in 61 games. New Orleans Saints best, Archie Manning. The Saints struck gold when they selected Peyton and Eli's father second overall in 1971. The 2-time Pro Bowler walked away as the Saints' all-time passing yards and TDs leader, with Drew Brees proudly holding both those records now. New Orleans Saints worst, Dave Wilson. New Orleans took Wilson first overall in the 1981 NFL Draft. Wilson went 12-19 as a starter with 36 touchdowns against 55 interceptions. New York Giants best, Phil Simms. The number 7 pick of 1979 spent his entire career with the Giants, which spanned from 1979 to 93. The 2-time Pro Bowler helped Big Blue to their first 2 Super Bowls in franchise history, and there is still a case to be made that he belongs in the Hall of Fame. New York Giants worst, Daniel Jones. Yeah, no contest here. Can't believe that they committed so much money and time to Danny Dimes. What a reach that was at number 6 overall in 2019. New York Jets best, Joe Namath. Broadway Joe was taken first overall by the Jets in the 1965 AFL Draft. The Hall of Famer led the Jets to their only Super Bowl victory in the 1968 season, a monumental upset against the heavily favored Baltimore Colts. New York Jets worst, Zach Wilson. Hey, you remember when Wilson was supposed to save the Jets franchise after being selected second overall in 2021? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Sheesh, dude. What a waste. Philadelphia Eagles best, Donovan McNabb. The Eagles never won the big one with McNabb, but he provided stability at QB for over a decade before Philly became the renowned quarterback factory. He led Philly to 5 NFC title games and 1 Super Bowl in his 11-year run. Philadelphia Eagles worst, John Reeves. The Eagles' 1972 first-round pick lost all 7 starts that he made in Philly. An 0-7 record for a first-round selection. Oof. Pittsburgh Steelers best, Terry Bradshaw. The first overall pick of 1970 helped Pittsburgh emerge as the first dynasty of the Super Bowl era, leading the Steelers to a Super Bowl championship in the 70s decade. I mean, come on, who else are we going to put here? Pittsburgh Steelers worst, Kenny Pickett. Not to be Captain Obvious, but getting just 24 starts and 13 touchdowns out of a 2022 first-round pick wasn't in the Steelers' plan. Yeah, no wonder they dumped him to the Eagles in a 2024 offseason trade. San Francisco 49ers best, Joe Montana. Before Tom Brady, Montana was the go-to football. The 49ers changed the NFL landscape forever when they selected Montana 82nd overall in 1979. The 2-time league MVP and Hall of Famer led the 49ers to 4 Super Bowl championships, cementing his place on the NFL QB Mount Rushmore. San Francisco 49ers worst, Earl Morrall. Morrall had plenty of success as a journeyman QB, but not in San Francisco. The 49ers wasted the number 2 pick of 1956 on a guy who saw a whopping 4 game appearances during his run on the West Coast. Seattle Seahawks best, Russell Wilson. 9 Pro Bowls, 8 playoff berths, 2 NFC championships, and a Super Bowl 47 victory. The first in franchise history. Yeah, not bad for a 2012 third-round pick. Seattle Seahawks worst, Rick Mirer. Congrats to Seattle on using the number 2 pick of 1993 on Mirer, who gave them 20 wins, 31 losses, 41 touchdowns, and 56 interceptions. Yippee! Tampa Bay Buccaneers best, Jameis Winston. Winston never fully lived up to expectations as the first overall pick of 2015, but he just needed 5 seasons to set the franchise records for both passing yards and TDs. Tampa Bay Buccaneers worst, Vinny Testaverde. Testaverde had a successful career as a journeyman QB, but none of his success came in Tampa. The first overall pick of 1987 lost 48 of 72 starts in Tampa, throwing 77 touchdowns against a whopping 112 interceptions. Tennessee Titans best, Steve McNair. Aaron McNair led the Titans to 4 playoff appearances, including 2 AFC title game berths and a trip to Super Bowl 34. He and Peyton Manning shared MVP honors in 2003. Tennessee Titans worst, Vince Young. Don't let his 2 Pro Bowl nods fool you. Young never lived up to the hype as a 3rd overall pick in 2006 after winning a national title at Texas. Young only completed 57.9% of pass attempts as a Titan with 42 touchdowns and just as many picks. Washington Commanders best, Sammy Baugh. The number 6 pick of 1973 was the NFL's best quarterback of the 1940s decade, leading the league in every major passing category multiple times. The Hall of Famer led Washington to NFL championships in the 1937 and 1942 seasons. Washington Commanders' worst, Robert Griffin III. The number 2 pick of 2012 had a dazzling rookie year and even led Washington to a surprise NFC East Division crown. Sadly, injuries cut his career short, and the mega package Washington gave up to the Rams to snag RG3 set them back for years to come. But hey, who do you think was the best and worst pick in your favorite NFL team's history? Let us know in the comment section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton, and hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.